Yes. I don't know. I was hoping that Chris Van Hollen was going to walk through the door and liberate me from the life of studio. But alas, he's too busy in El Salvador trying to free gang members and loose them on the streets of Maryland. Aren't they amazing? Well, a very good and happy Wednesday to you, and welcome back once again. New York State Attorney General and Trump hater, part of the Democrat Party lynch mob, these lefty commies that jail their political enemies if they don't shoot them on the streets. Letitia James, accused of mortgage fraud. Kind of funny because she was railing a couple of years ago about how terrible mortgage fraud is. And when you perpetrate mortgage fraud, somebody else doesn't get a mortgage, and now looks like either she married her father, you know, the family that beeps together, the Democrat family. Well, so many amazing stories to talk about. The Justice Department and our Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, press conference this morning talking about the New York Attorney General Letitia James, accused of mortgage fraud, and she really, the strictest measure of law must be brought to bear for this senior law enforcement official in the Democrat state of New York. Aren't they amazing? Now, that's one of the things going on. The arrest in Georgia. The arrest in Georgia, kind of a big deal, of the Democrat who vowed that he was going to murder yet another cabinet official and her entire family. Tulsi Gabbard, threatened with murder along with her entire family by a Democrat in Georgia who wants to murder everybody because, their heroes are Luigi Mangione and Mahmoud Khalil and lots of criminals and terrorists and murderers. They love them. They want to date them. These people. And they love Kilmore Abrego Garcia. They're in love with him. Amazing stuff. But that's not all that's going on, because Joe Biden was in Chicago yesterday where he gave a speech. Joe Biden did. He speechified, and he once again proved that he's utterly incapable of really standing upright and delivering a cogent message, much less being president of the United States. And he's babbling and rambling, and he lost track of the teleprompter again, and he's talking about seeing colored kids. The colored kids. He's on buses, because busing, and the Democrats. I remember that. Funny he'd bring that up, since he was quite angry that the colored kids were being bused to the schools where his rich white kids were going, and he fought against that. Hammer and sickle. Yes, he did. Remarkable stuff. And Joe Biden lied repeatedly, as you might expect. The headline from Red State. Joe Biden delivers Social Security speech in Chicago, and it's everything you might imagine. That's a fun headline. Now, I do want to get to the Joe Biden speech in Chicago because he must be revealed. And in revealing Joe Biden, we also reveal simultaneously. For Democrats, that means at the same time. The fact that the news media lied and lied and lied about Donald Trump being a Russian agent and the Russian collusion. And Joe Biden's real smart, and he's sharp as a tack. Who was it? It was Joe Scarborough that said that Joe Biden is smarter than ever, smart as a tack, and he's razor sharp. And the news media, in an orchestrated fashion, committed felony fraud against the American people. And maybe the Justice Department should look at them, too. But we've got Joe Biden. Got Joe Biden coming up for you. And they are the Democrats. And that means the media, too. Quite criminally insane, violently criminally insane. So Joe Biden delivers Social Security speech in Chicago, and it's everything you might imagine, from Susie Moore at Red State. And says, there is an old saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And that may well hold true in many instances. However, it can't say that that's the case. I can't say that that's the case for former President Joe Biden, who made his first formal post-presidency appearance in Chicago to blast President Donald Trump regarding Social Security. And now President Trump has said repeatedly that he's going to protect and save Social Security. And the Democrats, they keep yelling, he's going to, because, they know that older people tend to vote very reliably. And so they want to terrorize, as they firebomb the Jewish governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. They want to terrorize older voters in the United States into believing that the Democrats will save them, when the Democrats certainly, and the Republicans are somewhat guilty of this as well in Washington. They have been presiding for decades over the planned destruction, the bankruptcy of Social Security and of Medicare and of Medicaid, because we're spending and not replenishing the money for Social Security and other major social welfare programs to the point where they are unsustainable, one of their favorite words. So she says, it could just be my right-leaning perspective here, but while much has been said of late regarding the Democrats flailing and being seemingly leaderless, I'm not exactly sure who was clamoring for Joe to abandon the old beach chair and reassure the whisper scream that someone thought it was a good idea. It didn't get off to a most auspicious start, with Biden seemingly unclear as to his cue to start speaking. And this is absolutely true. Joe Biden came out on the stage in Chicago to give his speech, and they have a presidential-like podium waiting for him out on the stage, center stage for him to walk to. And he walked to it, and he didn't fall down, trip over a sandbag, and point at it or anything, which he's done repeatedly, of course. But he walked out to the microphones, and they have what they call the walkout music, like in baseball. Got the walkout music, and the crowd is supposed to be cheering wildly because, it's Joe. He's a genius. He's sharp as a tack. He's smart as he's ever been, even smarter, which might be true because he's always been a moron going back to grammar school. And everybody knows that if you don't get your news from CNN and MSNBC. But he walked out to the microphone, and the walkout music is playing, and Joe Biden reached the podium and just started talking as though it was time to start talking. But it was not time to start talking. The music was still playing, but Joe Biden, who was blinking and looking clueless and looked like he lost his car keys, and he started talking while the walkout music was still playing.
Thank you.
The music's still playing. Now he's talking. He's talking to the microphone. He thinks he
deserve help.
See?
And paid for most of it.
Then they realized he had started the speech, so they killed the music because he thought that he was supposed to start talking, proving once again for the 1,000th time that he is not up to the task of being president, and he hasn't been for years, and that his awful, terrible wife, Dr. Jill Biden, who really loves the Secret Service, if you know what I mean, she lied to us all. The media lied to us. Joe Scarborough lied to us. NBC News lied to us. The Washington Post lied to us. They all lied and lied and lied about how Joe Biden's sharp as a tack. They knew it wasn't true. And here's Joe. The music is playing. He's just reading the whatever is in the teleprompter, and then the backstage people, his people, realized, holy cannoli, he's reading the speech. The music is still on. So they knocked it down like that. They didn't even phase it out, fade it down. They just cut it like that because they realized he was already reading the speech and looking like a maroon, didn't know where he was, what he was doing, because he's Joe Biden.
Who deserve help and paid for most of it.
Middle of a sentence. And they kill the music, and you should have potted it down, should have phased it down. But these people, can I just say, they're incredibly unwell. And what do you hear the unwell people at the Marjorie Taylor Greene town hall that had to be tasered or tased and dragged out of there because they're violently, criminally insane? And what they were doing, they were cheering for their hero, their new hero, Kilmar, the Salvadoran MS-13 member. They loved that. But Joe Biden was giving a speech in Chicago, and absolutely amazing stuff. Now, music blaring, then it just, he starts talking, and that's Joe Biden. Then he thinks he's going to make a joke out of the Doge people looking at Social Security and discovering that they've got people listed in the Social Security computer database, not even saying that they're receiving Social Security checks every month, but they've got people in their database that are, 150 years old, and X number that are over 120 years old. And Elon Musk and the Doge people have been raising an eyebrow at this and pointing to it and saying, hey, here's your government efficiency for you. So Joe Biden thinks it's funny, and the fact that he's 300 years old is kind of funny, too.
By the way, those 300-year-old folk getting that Social Security, I want to meet them because I like to figure out how they live that.
Like to figure out
hell
what?
of a thing, man. I'm looking for longevity because it's hell when you turn 40 years old.
The sad old man at the Thanksgiving dinner table. The 300-year-olds go, I want to talk to him because I was sorry, what? He lost his train of non-thought.
I want to meet him because I like to figure out how they live that.
I like to figure out how and Dr. Jill, who's not a doctor, is sitting off to the side, smiling like a maroon. She really likes the Secret Service. So Joe Biden, he's flashing back to the antebellum era when he was in his 40s, and that's the period shortly after the Civil War. And Joe Biden, the first time he saw black people.
Pulling into the parking lot. And I had never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time I was only going in the fourth grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by. They never turned right to go to Claymont High School. I wondered why. Asked my mom, why? So in Delaware, they're not allowed to go to school, in public school, with white kids, honey. That sparked my sense of outrage as a kid.
And Joe Biden, he latched onto Social Security because he's spreading the Democrat Party lie that, Republicans and Trump and Elon Musk are going to kill Social Security. They've said repeatedly, very publicly, they're not touching Social Security, but it is on track to go bankrupt if you know anything about math. But Joe Biden, of course, doesn't. So he's just insane talking about Social Security because otherwise, they're going to throw everybody out on the street in cardboard boxes like the Democrats have, like our whole country has, with mentally ill people that are left on sidewalks to die.
Well, that's what you're all about. That's what the legislation's about. It's about dignity. Simple dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity.
Yeah. Where's Tara Reid now? Tara Reid come back to the United States, the one that he sexually assaulted when she was a Joe Biden Senate staffer as a young woman. And then when she went public during Pound Me Too, the Democrats decided to take her out. And then maybe the most ridiculous soundbite of all is where he talks about how divided the country is. I want to get to that in a minute. How divided the country. And literally, while he's pretending to lament the division in the country, he's contributing to the division in the country because of his extremely low IQ. Womp, womp, womp. You know that this country was built on hard work and on grit. Whether you are spending your days standing long hours every day, running errands, chasing the kids, just doing your part to keep the world turning on its axis, you shouldn't have to do with fatigue and foot pain and ankle discomfort. And that is where G-Defy shoes come in. G-Defy shoes, built with patented VersaShock technology. The Federal Trade Commission has authorized G-Defy to tell you that these shoes will help to relieve minor occasional pain associated with walking and running and prolonged periods of standing. G-Defy shoes help to absorb harmful shock align your body properly, improve your biomechanics, and return energy with every step you take. I've told you that my best girl and I, we each have pairs of G-Defy shoes. They sent them to us, and they make your arches feel great after a hike, and they're great. Right now, you can get 50% off your order of $120 or more by texting Chris to 91888. Or you can go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet to gdefy.com and use the code Chris. With G-Defy's 60-day risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Message and data rates may apply. Yeah, Joe Biden in Chicago. And the crowd, they're, oh, isn't he amusing? Isn't he sad? Isn't he pathetic? The Democrats cheer at the strangest things. Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton yelling that the election can be stolen from you, while people are being hit with tasers at a Marjorie Taylor Greene town hall. The Democrats are very, very weird. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. And the criminal news media with headlines Reuters. Former President Joe Biden gave a speech defending Social Security. It doesn't need defending, but nice try. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Don, calling from Chicago, Illinois, listening on the great WLS. Donnie, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me once again. It's always a pleasure. Hey, you failed to mention that not only was Joe Biden off his game, he showed up an hour late. So, the arrogance of it. And he picked the worst city in the world to come to with a mayor who's sitting in the audience, more than likely, with an approval rating of less than 6%. And, usually I've spoken publicly. Usually if you have a flub right off the bat, kind of throws you off your game. But he's so dementia-ridden that he didn't even know it. It's like it's a benefit.
That's exactly right. I mean, he opened by talking over the walkout music.
It was great. I saw it. It was fantastic.
He's been giving speeches for half a century. You'd think that maybe more than that. You'd think that he'd know to wait until the music's done. You wave. You come out, you stand at the podium, you put one hand in your jacket pocket like John F. Kennedy, and you wave with the other hand, and you smile.
Yep.
And he points at, like, the underage girls in the crowd, which he normally does, and tries to sniff them from afar, as he so often does. But then he starts talking during the walkout music, not realizing that he's supposed to wait for the music to stop. And he's so far into the speech that they just killed the music because they realized he was botching it. The walkout was botched. The guy needs to go to the beach and drag around a 6-ounce beach chair. And his wife needs to leave the country alone, too. She just wants the Secret Service. Joe Biden doesn't understand the English language, or at least most of it. He doesn't understand what walkout music is after a century in politics. He is very severely limited intellectually, and that's as polite and generous as anyone can be on the subject. And he's so dumb that he is attacking half of the United States, 77 million people that voted for President Trump. And while attacking half the country, accusing them of being divisive and dividing the country, while he is actively engaging in division and dividing the country. Joe Biden in Chicago yesterday.
Fewer than 100 days, this new administration has made done so much damage and so much destruction.
What?
It's kind of breathtaking it could happen that soon.
Is there a teleprompter?
We can't go on like this as a divided nation, as divided as we are. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. It's never been this divided. Granted, it's roughly 30%, but it's a 30% that has no heart.
Granted, it's only 30% apparently of the country, 77 million voters. You have to narrow it down to adults who are voting age. He's not going to be any good at the math. We all know that. I don't think he could fill the tank in his beautiful Corvette Stingray and figure out how much the gas cost. The guy is a complete maroon. But there he is. Oh, yeah, the division and the only 30%, but they don't have a heart. They ain't got no heart. Yeah. I know that doctors have to check your heart several times a day to make sure that you're still alive. Just amazing. And then he is using he thinks he's at the AARP concert or something, and he's like, oh, Social Security is coming after. So I actually, even NPR, National Panhandler Radio, suckling on the taxpayer teat, even they today, they say, talking about the Biden speech in Chicago, the White House has vowed that it would not cut Social Security benefits, saying any changes are intended to reduce waste and fraud. But the Democrat Party is very much in favor of waste and fraud. I saw the Democrats today fighting for illegal aliens to stay in public housing, where illegal aliens are living off the taxpayer dime because the Democrats love it if it's illegal. That's pretty much their party. So Joe Biden, oh, yeah, that terrible Trump and Elon Musk, they're going to take away your Social Security. That goes with the great Elon Musk soundbite where he was asked at a public event whether they said the Democrats say you're going to cut Social Security. Are you going to cut Social Security? And he said something quite funny in response. He said, yes, I'm stealing your Social Security money. Now I can finally buy nice things.
A lot of them are saying right now that the reason that you want to get into Social Security, that you want to get into all of these different, into Treasury and things like that, is that you're looking for personal information and you're trying to make more money. I don't think you care about money, do you?
I mean, listen, like if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
Yeah.
You know?
As the Republican side, they're having fun, they're laughing, they're not being hit with tasers and dragged out of there and screaming on behalf of MS-13 gang members in prison who the Democrats support, protect, and defend. But Joe Biden yesterday on Social Security, oh, yeah, they're going to steal because they want to get rich.
Already we can see the effects. For example, thousands of people use the Social Security website every single day to check on their benefits and submit their claims.
The website.
Now, the technology division of Social Security Administration has been cut in half. And so the website's crashing. Folks, imagine the panic that causes.
Now, if the website is being overloaded, it's because the terrorists of the Democrat Party, and they love, the Hamas-loving terrorists, they love the firebombing the Jewish governor's mansion, they love the MS-13 gang members now declared a terrorist organization, along with Tren de Aragua gang out of Venezuela, terrorist organization. They're the party that created the KKK and the SDS and the Symbionese Liberation Army and every terrorist organization that the country has seen pretty much. But there it is. Oh, no, a website, because the Democrats are terrorizing people, so people are checking on the website. And they're causing the traffic to the website in all probability. And then the website, because it's a website and it's a government website, it's overloaded because Democrats are spreading fear and terror. And then he has the mendacity, Big Daddy, to go on stage and say ridiculous things like that. Just amazing. Now, last night, while Joe Biden was talking, Fox News was on the air and Bret Baier was on the air, and they dipped into the Joe Biden speech, and he was just shamelessly lying. So they pulled out of the Joe Biden speech, and Bret Baier the network felt the need to say, wait a minute, we can't just let him get away with saying this crazy stuff. He's going to go down to the Capitol and set it on fire, the lunatic. So last night on Fox News during the Joe Biden speech.
So now people are overwhelming the phone lines.
President Biden in Chicago talking about Social Security there, saying the administration has dismantled Social Security. They have gotten rid of a number of employees, thousands of them in the Social Security Administration. But in that interview with Elon Musk and his Doge team, they say they're going after waste, fraud, and abuse in Social Security. And also President Trump has said that he will not touch benefits. In fact, Elon Musk pledging that benefits will be protected more by what they're doing. Obviously, Democrats and President Biden taking the opposite approach here and talking about the warnings, especially for those concerned about Social Security. These remarks, by the way, we'll have a panel discussion about more of the comments a little bit later in the show. The remarks come amid continuing questions about President Biden's mental capacity.
Oh, his mental capacity. Well, that's a serious question. And look, Social Security is not going anywhere. And there are even some people who say, oh, we need to do away with Social Security. Everybody's been paying into Social Security since you got your first job at McDonald's as a teenager, and you pay into it until your last paycheck clears before you hopefully retire someday. And you've paid into it, and you're owed that money. And nobody in their right mind is going to say, take it away from everybody. I don't care if you paid into it. It's on track to go bankrupt, and it's already effectively bankrupt. But never mind that, because the Democrat Party, aren't they something?
They want to wreck it so they can rob it. They want to wreck it so they can rob it.
And they clap.
Why do they want to rob it? In order to deliver huge tax cuts to billionaires and big corporations and keep it going.
Yeah, and keep what going? And keep it going. Tax cuts, huge tax. In order to, they're going to rob Social Security in order to deliver huge tax cuts to billionaires. His brain is fried, and he is just toast. But the the fact that every news organization in the world should say, well, that's a lot of hooey. Great stuff. See the plane flying over Harvard yesterday with a Palestinian flag saying Harvard hates Jews. See that, the banner? Palestinian flag saying Harvard hates Jews. The Democrat Party hates Jews. Even their Jews hate Jews. Aren't they amazing? And they're gonna lose $2.2 billion in U.S. taxpayer money. Why would U.S. taxpayers give $2.2 billion to Harvard this year? It's like a Nazi death camp. You got everything but the gas chambers. It's amazing, these people, and they say, well, we're not going to stop the Jew hatred on the campus of Harvard. And if you're going to take $2.2 billion in taxpayer money, first of all, every American should say, why am I giving money to Harvard from my tax dollars when Social Security is on track to go bankrupt, when it's already inevitably bankrupt? Why are we giving billions to the most elite educational institution on the planet Earth, arguably? And they charge $90,000 a year to every snowflake that goes there. Just amazing. Man, oh man, oh man. They're defending academic freedom, aren't they? The Jew-hating Harvardites. They just amazing stuff. In fact, my friend Matthew Foldy, reporter, just back from Central Asia, and where he was in India, got a little food poisoning there, and then he was in the stands, and now he's back home. But Matthew Foldy, looking like he had a little jet lag in the White House briefing room yesterday at the, hey, it's not the New York Times media seat. And my friend Matthew Foldy, great guy, funny guy, and he's Jewish, and he's from Maryland. But Matthew Foldy with Caroline Leavitt in the White House briefing yesterday, since President Trump is talking about withholding $2.2 billion of our dollars going to Harvard, why? And we're paying all these other left-wing elite institutions. Harvard has $53 billion in endowments. They're very well endowed, and they hate the Jews, and we're giving them billions of dollars every year. And the reason for that is because Barack Obama and his pals went to Harvard, so they steal from us billions of dollars every year. Every cab driver and 7-Eleven, soda jerk is paying money into the federal tax till, so the crooked Democrats, like crooked Barack Obama, can give the money to Harvard, billions of dollars, one of the wealthiest institutions on the planet, and we've got teenagers and nurses and firefighters giving money to Harvard every year? Because, honestly, we don't have 2.2 billion people paying into the federal tax till every year. So each of us is giving multiple dollars every year to Harvard because crooked, criminal Harvard scamsters, pyramid schemers like Barack Obama are just skimming money out of the federal till to give it to their alma mater. And Harvard's not the only one. We're giving billions to all these schools that charge $90,000 a year to send your kid there so they come out stupider. And just amazing. But Matthew Foldy at the White House briefing yesterday with Caroline Leavitt asking about this Harvard and billions question.
I'm curious, where does the administration see this going with Harvard and with other colleges and universities in America that are refusing to reform in wake of the sort of craziness that we've seen take over some of them?
Thank you, Matt, for being here, and thanks for the question. When it comes to Harvard, the president's position on this is grounded in common sense, in the basic principle that Jewish American students, or students of any faith, should not be illegally harassed and targeted on our nation's college campuses.
And what the question was, because President Trump went to Harvard and the crooked, Jew-hating Harvard president, and not to be confused with the last Jew-hating Harvard president who was forced out of her job. And he said, listen, make the environment on the campus of Harvard safe for Jewish students, Jewish faculty, Jewish passersby, or you're not going to get $2.2 billion in federal tax dollars that are paid for by teenagers and cab drivers and EMTs, emergency medical technicians. NPR, National Panhandler Radio. Trump administration freezes more than $2.2 billion after Harvard rejects its demands. That's the headline. Now, its demands are that you make the environment on Harvard's campus outside of Boston, Mass., safe for Jewish people. Isn't that amazing? And Harvard has said, no, we're not going to do that. We reject your demands, but we demand that you make it safe for all the people on campus. Nope, we're not going to do that because we're with Hamas. We're with the Palestinians because the left has made it trendy to be pro-jihad and anti-Jewish. The Trump administration responded quickly to Harvard University's defiance on Monday. NPR calls it Harvard University's defiance, freezing more than $2.2 billion in multi-year grants and contracts after the university rejected demands that it change hiring, admission, and other policies. Well, first of all they hire based on race, which is illegal, and on gender, which is illegal, but they do it constantly all day long because don't you know who they are? They're the left, and they have all the government guns anyway. Earlier in the day, Alan Garber, Harvard's president, said in a letter to faculty and students that the university would not submit to a list of demands made last Friday, among them that it eliminate DEI programs, screen international students because they have so many genocidal, Jew-hating jihadis from the Muslim world, and they applaud that. And Columbia University, same thing. Because they've got some of their heroes over there like Mahmoud Khalil. These people, they're not on the side of civilization. They're the left. They're not liberals. International students who are supportive of terrorism or anti-Semitism want to ensure viewpoint diversity, which is the only diversity that matters, but all they care about is melanin levels, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation. At stake, the government said, was some $9 billion in federal funding. Why would we give $9 billion tax dollars to Harvard? Have your graduates give you $9 billion, and in the meantime, GFY.
What in the hell's diversity?
Well, I could be wrong. But I believe diversity is an old wooden ship that was used during the Civil War era.
All right, let us return to the telephones and Talk to the nice people, the smart people, the American people. People the Democrats so disdain. Let's go to Marco, calling from Springfield, Virginia. Marco, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Marco.
Hey, I'm reading a book called Social Security, The Great Ponzi Scheme, written by Don Smith. And I think every Looney Tune lefty should read it. And anybody that votes that way, it is amazing. I mean, at the end of the book, it says, "Are you mad as hell yet?" Well, I am. You pay Social Security tax. When you're working, your employer also pays Social Security tax. So there's two income Social Security payments going into the system. The Ponzi scheme is if you die and you don't have any dependents, the money goes in the till. And so there's money that you paid in, never dispersed. But here's the clincher. Dopey Joe added millions of people who didn't pay a dime into the system. They're getting Social Security benefits, they're getting Medicare, they're getting Medicaid, and that's why the system's in trouble. So the solution is privatization, because you're going to be responsible for your own funds, and you will be the recipient of everything you put in and whatever you've accumulated. So this is a great book. Again, Social Security, The Great Ponzi Scheme. Everybody should buy a copy to pay Social Security tax.
And it's, Marco, we were just talking about $9 billion going to Harvard, right? Because Harvard graduates secured power, and naturally they abused it to steal from kids that work at 7-Elevens and people that work at Jiffy Lube, their taxes. But keep in mind that your Social Security withholding is separate from your income tax. Right?
Exactly.
So you're paying your federal income tax, your state income tax, your city income tax. You're separately paying into the Social Security trust fund, but there is no trust and there is no fund.
Right. And here's another goodie. When you retire, you pay tax, you pay Social Security tax on your Social Security benefit.
That's exactly right. And President Trump is talking about putting an end to that. Why would I don't understand why government employees pay taxes. They, we should have the pay adjusted government employee. It just makes for more paperwork and grows the IRS is all it accomplishes. But your Social Security tax, and we call it a trust fund, but Marco, you're reading about it. There is no fund. It's not like there's a pool of money over here that they're drawing from.
Right.
We're barely hanging on by the skin of our teeth, and it can't last forever. Marco, thank you for that.